Hey everyone! Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more exciting content like this. Now, let's get started. Clearwater Bay Resort sprawled over 12 acres of pristine North Carolina coastline, boasting powdery white beaches, shimmering infinity pools, a top-tier restaurant, and rooms starting at $800 a night. It was the kind of lavish destination my family adored, showcasing their achievements. I'd owned it for 3 years, a fact they were completely unaware of. 6 weeks earlier, an invitation to the annual family reunion arrived, penned in my mother's refined handwriting, declaring this year's event would take place at an upscale coastal retreat. The underlying message was unmistakable: arrive ready to be dazzled and to feel outshone. I pulled up on Friday afternoon in my usual laid-back fashion, jeans, a cozy tee, and my dependable Honda Civic rolling into the circular driveway amid a fleet of sleek Mercedes, BMWs, and Teslas. The valet shot my car a thinly veiled sneer before handing me a ticket. "Enjoy your stay," he said with the polite indifference reserved for those who seemed out of place among the resort's hefty parking fees. I flashed a grin and strolled inside. The lobby was breathtaking, vaulted ceilings sweeping ocean vistas, and marble floors gleaming in the afternoon sun. I'd greenlit the redesign myself 2 years ago, though my family would never suspect it. To them, I was still Emily, the family's supposed underdog with a dull tech job. "Emily, over here." My mother's voice carried from a cluster of chairs by the windows, where she sat with my aunts, uncles, and cousins, already deep in their drinks and the familiar pecking order of family dynamics. "There you are," Mom said as I approached, her gaze skimming my outfit with clear disapproval. "We've been here since noon." The check-in was flawless. This place knows how to pamper its guests. "It's stunning." I nodded sincerely. "It really is, isn't it?" Aunt Sarah, my mother's younger sister, jumped in, always eager to one-up everyone. "Harold and I stayed at a resort in the Bahamas last month. Charming, but this might top it. The room rates alone scream exclusivity." Mom added with a pointed tone, $800 a night for a basic room. "We're in an oceanfront suite, naturally, $2,000 a night. Worth every cent." Uncle Harold swirled his whiskey. "Quality doesn't come cheap." I settled into a chair on the group's edge, accustomed to my role as the observer, expected to marvel at their opulent tastes and lifestyles. "How was your drive, Emily?" Aunt Carol, my mother's eldest sister, asked, making an effort to include me. "Smooth. About 5 hours from the city." "Still in that tiny apartment?" Mom asked, though she knew the answer. "It suits me." "So cramped," she sighed dramatically. "I don't know how you cope. Our Raleigh home has 6 bedrooms, and even that feels tight when we host." "Different priorities," I replied calmly. My cousin Jessica, Aunt Sarah's daughter, glanced up from her phone. "Still doing that data thing?" "Data analysis, yeah." "Sounds dull," she said, eyes back on her screen. At 25, Jessica worked in marketing for her father's company and never missed a chance to flaunt her Duke MBA. "It keeps the bills paid," I said. "Barely, I bet," Aunt Sarah said with mock pity. "Tech jobs are so shaky these days. Harold was just saying how many layoffs are hitting that industry." "My company's doing well," I said. "Your company?" Mom laughed. "Emily, you work for a company, not own one." I could have set her straight, could have explained that I founded Thomson Analytics 6 years ago, growing it from 3 employees to 47, serving major East Coast investment firms. But I'd learned they wouldn't hear me. "Right," I said instead. "My mistake." The afternoon dragged on in its predictable rhythm. My aunts flaunted their latest purchases: designer bags, jewelry, cars. My uncles debated golf scores and stock portfolios. My cousins scrolled their phones, occasionally tossing in tales of their high-flying jobs, pricey apartments, and bustling social lives. I listened, offering polite remarks when needed. Around 6 p.m., Mom announced, "Dinner's at 7 in the main restaurant. Dress appropriately, everyone. This isn't some beachside diner. They have standards." Her last words were aimed at me. "Of course," I said. "I brought something suitable." "Suitable by whose standards?" Aunt Sarah teased with a chuckle. "No offense, dear, but your version of nice might not match this resort's dress code." "I'll figure it out," I replied. In my room, An oceanfront suite I'd booked under my name without anyone noticing. I slipped into a sleek black dress that cost more than most people's rent. I rarely indulged in such luxuries around my family, but quality clothing was one of my few splurges. The main restaurant was as striking as the rest of Clearwater Bay, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the ocean, crisp white tablecloths, and candlelight dancing on crystal glassware. I poached the executive chef from a Michelin-starred spot in Charleston, and the results justified every dollar. My family was already gathered at a large table by the windows, Mom holding court, gesturing animatedly. "Emily," she called as I approached. We were just discussing the wine list. Such an impressive selection. I took a seat at the table's far end, next to Cousin Michael, who was too engrossed in a work call to notice me. "The sommelier recommended this Bordeaux," Uncle Harold said, raising his glass. $200 a bottle, but you can taste the craftsmanship. "We should order a few for the table," Aunt Sarah suggested. "Split the cost among us." "Actually," Mom interjected, "let's have those who appreciate fine wine cover it. No need to burden everyone." Her glance at me made her meaning clear. I couldn't afford it. "I'm good with water," I said, which was true. I rarely drank and didn't need to prove myself with pricey wine. "See," Mom said, as if I'd proven her point. "Emily's happy with her simple preferences." Dinner arrived in exquisite courses: seared scallops, lobster bisque, dry-aged ribeye, a deconstructed key lime pie. My family raved over each dish, praising the presentation and dissecting flavors with the exaggerated flair of amateur food critics. "This must be what dining at truly elite places feels like," Jessica said, snapping a photo of her ribeye for Instagram. "Not the chain restaurants regular people frequent." "Regular people," Aunt Carol echoed with a laugh. "Like Emily's usual haunts?" "I'm sure Emily enjoys her meals," Mom said with feigned kindness. "Not everyone has a sophisticated palate. There's no shame in liking simple food." I sliced into my ribeye, cooked to perfection, just as I directed Chef Marcus, and said nothing. "The thing about true luxury," Uncle Harold went on, relishing his favorite subject, "is you can't fully appreciate it until you've reached a certain status. No explanation can capture what it's like to savor the finer things when you've earned them." "Earned," Aunt Sarah emphasized. "Anyone can rack up debt to fake belonging at places like this, but truly having the means to enjoy it stress-free, that's the real sign of success." Jessica piped up, "Dad, didn't you mention looking into a vacation home around here? Somewhere for family gatherings?" "I've been browsing," Harold admitted, "but properties on this coast are insanely priced, multi-million-dollar homes for anything worthwhile." "What about this resort?" Cousin Brandon asked. "Anyone know who owns it?" "Could be a smart investment. Probably some corporate group," Harold said dismissively. "Luxury resorts like this are usually owned by big companies or wealthy dynasties, not something small-time investors can touch." I sipped my water. "It'd be nice to have a place like this for the family," Mom mused, "somewhere we could gather without these steep rates. But that's just a dream. Properties like this are out of reach for most." "For some," Aunt Sarah corrected, glancing around the table. "Others of us are doing quite well. Thank you." The conversation turned to their financial triumphs. Harold's latest deal, Sarah's stock gains, Jessica's promotion, Brandon's new Charlotte condo. Then, inevitably, it swung to me. "So, Emily," Harold said with forced cheer, the kind that precedes discomfort, "still in that studio apartment? 1 bedroom, actually," I corrected mildly. "And still driving that old Honda? It's reliable." "Reliable," he chuckled. "When you're on a budget, I suppose that trumps comfort or style." "Harold," Aunt Carol said softly. "I'm just being honest," he pressed. "Emily's what, 30 now?" 29, I said. "Right, 29. By that age, most in this family have made something of themselves. Good careers, nice homes, real wealth building. But Emily's still in an entry-level job, renting, driving a car older than half the staff here." "It's a different path," Aunt Carol tried. "A lower path," Aunt Sarah said bluntly. "Nothing wrong with that. Not everyone can shine. Someone's got to be average." Mom nodded. "I've come to terms with Emily not reaching the heights we expected. She's content with less, and that's fine. People have different limits." The table felt quiet, eyes either pitying me or avoiding me altogether. The important thing, Mom continued, is we don't make Emily feel bad about her shortcomings. She's doing her best with what she has. I set my fork down carefully. That's kind of you, I said softly. We're family, Mom said warmly. We support each other, no matter the success level. Even if you can't chip in for events like this, your presence matters. Speaking of chipping in, Aunt Sarah said we should figure out how to split this weekend's costs, rooms, meals, activities. Those who can afford it will handle it, Mom said quickly. Emily, don't worry, we'll cover you. That's not necessary, I began. Please, Harold cut in. We know you're struggling. Let us help. That's what family's for. I'm not struggling, I said evenly. Emily, honey, Mom said with gentle condescension, we've seen your apartment, your car. We know your salary can't be much. There's no shame in needing help. I don't need help, I said. Pride, Aunt Sarah sighed. That's the issue with young people today. Too proud to face reality. I felt the old frustration rising. The same argument recycled for years. No matter what I said, they'd already labeled me. You don't belong at this level, Mom said, her tone hardening. I don't mean that harshly, Emily. I mean it practically. This resort, this lifestyle, it's for people who've earned it. You haven't. Not yet. Maybe one day, with hard work and better choices, you'll get there. But right now, you're out of your league. She'd be better off at a motel, Aunt Sarah agreed. Nothing wrong with motels. They're fine for people in Emily's position. The restaurant seemed to hush, though it might have been my imagination. Nearby diners glanced our way. You know what? I said, starting to rise. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should. Miss Thompson. I turned to see Richard Chin, the resort's director, standing by our table. Richard, 58, had managed high-end properties worldwide and was my first big hire when I bought Clearwater Bay 3 years ago. Yes, I said. I'm sorry to interrupt your dinner, he said smoothly, but there's a matter needing your attention. The contractors finished the spa renovations and need your approval before starting the landscaping. The table went silent. Contractors? Mom murmured faintly. Richard ignored her, his focus on me. Also, the architect sent final plans for the new beachfront villas. They're in my office when you're ready to review. And the quarterly financials arrived. Revenue's up 18% from last quarter. The restaurant's at capacity most nights, and we're booked solid for the next 6 months. Great news, I said. Thank you, Richard. Of course. Oh, and your usual suite is ready if you prefer it over the ocean view room you booked for this weekend. Ocean view's fine, I said. Very good. Will you attend tomorrow's staff meeting? The management team would value your input on the expansion plans. I'll be there, I said. Richard nodded, then paused. Forgive me, but are these guests troubling you? I can have them moved to another table. No need, I said. They're family. Of course, he said with impeccable neutrality. Enjoy your dinner. He left, and the table was deathly quiet. Mom's face was ashen. Aunt Sarah's jaw hung open. Harold looked stunned. Emily, Mom whispered. What was that? That was Richard Chin, I said calmly, sitting back down. He's the resort director. He reports to me. Reports to you? Aunt Sarah echoed faintly. I own Clearwater Bay Resort, I said simply. Bought it 3 years ago. The renovations Richard mentioned are part of my expansion plans. 6 new beachfront villas, a spa upgrade, and a private dining room for events. Silence lingered. You own this place? Harold asked. Yes. The whole resort? Jessica said, her phone forgotten. The resort, the beach, the restaurant, all 12 acres. I bought it for $47 million in 2021. It's now worth about $68 million, thanks to the upgrades and reputation we've built. $47 million, Mom repeated weakly. The financing was simple, I continued. My company, Thomson Analytics, was thriving. We do financial modeling and data analysis for investment firms. I started it 6 years ago with 2 employees. Now we have 47, with offices in New York, Charlotte, and Atlanta. Last year's revenue was $32 million. Aunt Carol stared, wide-eyed. Emily, why didn't you tell us? I tried, I said. Multiple times. But you'd already decided I was a failure, so my words didn't register. When I invited you to my company's launch party, you called it boring. When I mentioned buying property, you assumed it was a condo and mocked my starter home. When I talked about my work, you changed the subject. But your apartment, Mom said weakly. Your car. I like my apartment. It's a 15-minute walk to my office, and I don't need much space since I travel between our locations. The car's reliable and efficient. I don't need to flash wealth to feel good. The room rates, Aunt Sarah whispered. You said $800 a night. For standard guests, yes. I don't charge myself to stay in my own resort, but you wouldn't know that. You assumed I was scraping by in a standard room. Harold, now indignant, said, If you own this place, why let us think you were paying full price? I wanted to see, I said. I wanted to see if you'd treat me differently based on what you thought I could afford. And you did. You spent all evening mocking my supposed poverty, offering to cover costs I don't need help with, telling me I don't belong here. We didn't know, Mom protested. Exactly, I said. You didn't know, and you didn't care to find out. You assumed, judged, and treated me accordingly. Why not just tell us? Aunt Carol asked softly. Would you have believed me? I countered. If I'd said tonight, by the way, I own this resort, would you have taken me seriously? Or thought I was delusional? Their silence answered for them. I built something real, I went on. I created a successful company from scratch, invested smartly, and bought a property I'm passionate about improving. I did it without your help, approval, or knowledge. And all along, you assumed I was failing. We thought we were supportive, Mom said feebly. Supportive? I repeated. You told me I don't belong at this level, that I should stick to motels. You've spent years belittling me to feel superior. The restaurant was noticeably quieter now, with diners openly watching, some holding phones. What now? Harold asked softly. You finish your dinner, I said. It's on the house, as always. I've comped all family meals for 3 years. Every time you've stayed here, every meal, spa treatment, and beach service, I've covered it. You've been paying for us? Aunt Sarah asked. Every visit, I confirmed. Because despite everything, you're family, and I wanted you to enjoy this place, even if you thought I didn't belong. Mom's eyes welled up. Emily, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. No, I said gently. You're sorry you were wrong. That's not the same as being sorry for how you treated me. You enjoyed making me feel small. The only difference now is you know I'm successful, so you're rewriting your story. That's not fair, Jessica protested. Isn't it? I asked. 5 minutes ago, you all agreed I'm average, limited, unable to appreciate luxury. Now that you know I own this place, you're scrambling to apologize. No one responded. I stood, placing my napkin on the table. Enjoy your dinner and the resort. Your rooms are covered, as always, but I'll take my meals separately this weekend. Emily, please, Mom said, reaching for me. Don't leave like this. Let's talk. We've been talking, I said softly, for years. You just haven't listened. I walked away, feeling every eye in the restaurant on me. Richard met me near the entrance, his professional demeanor intact. Everything okay, Miss Thompson? He asked quietly. Fine, I said. Just family drama. I'm sorry if my interruption caused issues. You handled it perfectly, I assured him. They were planning to help pay for my dinner, assuming I couldn't afford it. A flicker passed through Richard's eyes, though his expression stayed neutral. I see. Shall I arrange separate dining for their stay? No need. I'll eat in my suite. They can have the restaurant. Of course. I'll have Chef Marcus send up something special. Thank you, Richard. In my suite, the owner's residence, occupying the top floor, I stood at the windows, watching the sunset paint the ocean in hues of orange and pink. I'd bought this place for this view, for the wave-soothing rhythm, for the reminder that some things outlast family tensions and social games. My phone buzzed with texts from Mom, Aunt Sarah, and others, explanations, apologies, excuses. I powered it off. A knock came, and I opened the door to a room service cart with covered dishes and wine. Compliments of Chef Marcus, the server said. He says congratulations on the strong quarterly report. I smiled. Tell him thank you. Alone, I uncovered the dishes, my favorite simple pasta with fresh tomatoes and basil, roasted vegetables, and a slice of Marcus's legendary chocolate torte. No fuss, just food made by someone who knew my tastes. I ate on the balcony, stars twinkling over the ocean, waves whispering below. Tomorrow, I'd meet with the management team about expansion. Next week, I'd fly to Charlotte for a client pitch. Next month, we'd break ground on the villas. My family could adapt or not. I'd keep moving forward. The resort phone rang. It was Richard. Sorry for the late call, Miss Thompson. Your mother's in the lobby, asking to speak with you. Tell her I'm unavailable tonight, I said. But she can leave a message, and I'll consider meeting tomorrow. Of course. Also, some family members have been asking staff about you, whether you really own the property, your role, how long you've been owner. And what are you telling them? The truth, he said. That you bought Clearwater Bay 3 years ago, personally oversaw its renovation and growth, and are one of the most engaged owners I've worked with in 30 years of hospitality. Thank you, Richard. Just the truth, he said. Good night, Miss Thompson. I returned to the balcony, my chocolate torte half eaten. By morning, my family's questions would spread through the staff, and every employee would know the people who dismissed me at dinner had no clue who I was. Part of me felt validated, but mostly I was exhausted. I'd spent years building something valuable, creating jobs, crafting experiences, investing in a property I loved, while those closest to me assumed I was floundering. That said more about them than me. My phone buzzed again, one last message from Uncle Harold. We should talk investment opportunities. Interested in partnering on your next property. I deleted it without replying. They still didn't understand. They thought they could now latch onto my success, benefit from it, join it. But they'd had years to be part of my life and chose judgment instead. The ocean stretched out, vast and unending. Beyond the horizon lay new properties, new dreams. I'd build them alone if I had to. I'd been doing it all along.